Okay.
Hey YouTubers, this is Dave with Dave's Island Instruments.
We're on.
Yeah,
oh,
I'm
why
here.
don't we put a real vendor shirt on?
Ah, it's okay. We'll
Okay.
get that one later.
All right.
But I'm here with JT Taylor today, a good friend from Phoenix, Arizona, and we've known each other for decades now. I think it's been decades.
Yes, sure
Yeah.
has.
So we're just going to talk today and talk about steel drums and steel pan, and because he's got a wealth of information on the subject. He's been around since before I was around with the steel pan movement in the United States. And in fact, there were a couple of things we talked about the other day that I wanted to talk about here with everybody else on YouTube. So just to start out, I was kind of interested in your story the other day. You said we were talking about the haystack program with Ellie Minette. So if anybody out there doesn't know who Ellie Minette is one of the fathers of the steel drum, the modern steel drum. He's still alive today. This comes from the island of Trinidad. And JT can take it from here, but basically Ellie had a haystack program, which was just like a workshop. And he was saying something like preceding that, or the first one.
I think
you met
there
some
were,
of the prime guys that are still involved with steel pan in America.
Yeah, there were. I guess there were several of these, part of a summer college credit series.
Okay.
And they were the one I attended had Andy Norell doing steel pan playing.
And what year was this?
89.
Okay, 89.
89. I started pan in 82, but I only as a teacher. I did that for a few years, went on the road out of the country, came back to the States in 87, and everywhere I went on tour had some kind of a steel pan band.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was on fire to get one, you
Yeah,
know. So
yeah.
when I came back, I got hold of some fellas, they made some drums for me, and they were made by Patrick Arnold.
Mhm.
So I had heard about this workshop in Haystack. They called it Haystack, I think, was the community college program.
Got it. Right.
And,
So that's what
and
they
it was
changed
in Cannon Beach,
Right.
Oregon.
Yep.
Which is go to Portland and just keep going west.
All the way to the beach.
And,
Yeah.
and coming from Phoenix, Arizona in the summertime, this was fantastic. it was like beautiful, our winter weather.
Yeah.
So we had our bicycles, our pans and everything, and it was just a fantastic experience.
Awesome.
Andy Norell had a crew with him that was his brother Jeff, Tom Miller, I guess a few others. I remember a saxophone player and something Bittner. But anyhow, that was a large room of pan players setting up their instruments, and you left them there, and it was pan from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, basically,
Yeah.
with those fellas teaching by rote. And Ellie Manette had a tuning and building workshop that ran with the same time frame, but it was 2 weeks long. So, yeah, like you said, I got to meet what I call now the who's who in pan here
Right.
in the U.S.
Yeah.
Fellas from a band in Las Vegas, several of the universities, Salt Lake City. Some fellas came from Texas. A lot of the guys from Long Beach. Dr. Michael Carney, Tim Peterman, and just a handful of people there. And I happened to be set up right in the front. And Andy, I guess, liked the seconds, or it was just convenient for him to get to those.
Yeah.
And so he would walk up there and teach a part, and then run away and teach another section, their part. So I was on double seconds. So as soon as he was through, and it was all huddled up like this and watching him, real Trinidadian style. As soon as it was over, he would run away and teach another part, and everybody would say, JT, what are the letters? What did he show you?
Yeah.
And because we're at all different levels
Yeah.
of players in there, and I realized that immediately
Yeah.
because this woman, Dennis Martin's wife, Sharon Martin, lovely people, they live up in the northwest there.
Yeah.
And he even made pans.
Right.
Yeah, for Ellie
Oh, yeah.
and himself. And so she was like, what are the notes? I just this and that. And I said, well, give me a second. I think it was like cut this and that, proceeding to this and the other. And so she would run away and work on that. And Andy is over here teaching another section. She'd come back and, what is it before now again or after that? It was really hard for a lot of people to learn that way. By rote.
Yeah.
Here's how you move your hands. Watch this, and then they run away. And
Yeah.
Like, what was that again?
Yeah.
So, and it's complex music.
Who does?
It's complex.
Oh, complex,
it's
right,
complex
yeah.
music
Yeah.
that he was teaching. So then, as I was calling out letters now to her, F-A, D-F, B-flat, E, that kind of business, A and D, I could hear Andy and Narelle over here on teaching the tenor bass part, which gave me the roots of the chords.
Yeah.
So my mind immediately shifted from her, the letters, calling out letters on the pan,
Yeah.
to, that's a D minor, G7, A minor, D7
Right,
kind of business.
yeah.
And I started calling it out that way.
Yeah.
And Andy, I can see his head turn from over there because he heard it. And I got to a point where I said, I don't really know the next one after that. And a fellow behind me says, oh yeah. He goes, then it goes E minor, flat 5 to A sharp, this, that, and the other. And it was a fellow, Darren Dyke.
Oh, okay, yeah,
It was
Dick, right on.
a very renowned tutor
Yeah.
and builder now.
Yeah.
He went to the LE program and
Yeah.
lives over in Europe.
Yeah.
And there were several people, like I said, from all over the place. Kansas, people who now live in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
make their career playing pan. Chris
Yeah.
Arpad was there.
Yeah, oh, wow, Chris, okay.
Yeah, and Jim Munson-Ryder
Uh-huh.
was one of the group of students there in the double seconds, and now he works with Tom Miller and those guys doing their own workshops.
Yeah.
So it was a fantastic experience.
Oh, yeah.
It was a week long, and I kind of wish it would have gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah. I know, actually, I attended the Haystack program in 91, I think it was. Andy wasn't there that year, but I got to, it was kind of similar thing. You meet all these people that were, the players that were involved with steel pan right from the beginning in the United States. And that's where I actually met Ellie for the first time.
Right.
And that's when I first was exposed to the tuning of the steel drums. And he was giving a little lecture with a whiteboard. He had some strums, and he was saying, "Hey, this is where the octave is, tap, tap, tap." And
Yeah.
I could kind of hear what he was talking about, And so that's when I got inspired for the very first time to dabble with tuning.
Tuning.
And then he also had this little brochure booklet. It was 20 or 30 pages long. It had magnets in there that, photocopied magnet templates.
Right. Uh-huh.
So you
Yeah,
could see
the
how
shape
big
of
the
the
shapes
notes.
were supposed to be, and it had measurements for how deep
Well, we
you're
had
supposed to
made
sink it.
that at 89 there.
You made that then?
Because
Okay.
Dr. Tim Peterman was, can't remember which university he was with then, but he had just come back from Trinidad playing and won first place with
Awesome.
with Renegades,
Okay.
playing Iron Man.
Great team.
And so he was there, and he said, I'm going to take sabbatical. And maybe he had just come back or was just getting ready to go, and did that win. But he took sabbatical and came to Phoenix, because the story is, when I got to Haystack there, my journey was from Phoenix up the coast, and so I got hold of some folks that I met in my first time playing pan ever was as a teacher in '82. Now the pans were sabotaged and really out of tune.
Who made those? Do you remember?
Those were all L.A. Manette
Okay,
pans.
okay.
And I was at university, and they said, there's a Boys and Girls Club.
Wait, which university was it?
ASU.
Okay, yeah.
Arizona State
Yeah.
University, and the Boys and Girls Club had a band, and they were looking to replace their teacher.
Okay, right.
So I went over and observed one night, and the guy said, go in and I introduced myself, see if you like it, and check out what they're doing.
Yeah.
So when I went in, it looked just like this. They had the letters on the drums,
Right, of course.
and the little kids were just playing these drums, and I was like, wow, that's fantastic. It sounded great.
Yeah.
I said to him, yeah, I can do that. Because I was kind of a hot shot marimba player, mallet player, but I had never played steel pans.
Right.
I took the job, and when the first act came in, the drums didn't sound like that anymore. The letters were gone,
Oh, no.
and the teacher had
Oh, bummer.
had mashed in about 6 or 7 notes on each drum.
Oh, man.
So I didn't really know what was going on, but I showed up and the letters were going. So I said, no problem. Let me go home and get my vibes.
Yeah.
I'll come back with a marker pen, and we'll be ready to go in 30 minutes. So as I was writing down these letters by ear, the kids were showing up. And who are you? And I'm like, well, I'm the new teacher, and where are our letters at? I said, well, I'm just putting them on there now. And they're like, well, that one should be an E. And so I said, well, I already have an E. And they're like, yeah, but there's another E right next to it. And it was about half the size, so
Yeah.
I assumed, oh, maybe it's an octave E.
Yeah.
But when I touched it,
wasn't.
it was about
Yeah.
three different notes all
Yeah.
at once, but maybe partially a little bit of an E in there. But so I said to the child, I said, I don't know what note that is. We're going to leave that alone for a while. And it's like, it's an E, and how come it's all, shaped like this now? And
Yeah.
so then we knew what had happened.
Yeah.
So I told the Boys and Girls Club, and they said, well, can you just teach him anyway? I said, sure, we'll try to get through what we can.
Yeah.
And it was awful. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was, you stand in front of it, and I'd be playing something that they knew, and, teaching, and it would sound awful. I'd run over there and say, what are you playing? Oh, I'm playing the C and the E. I said, oh, no, not that C. We can never use that C. And I had to put a big mark like this on it, because it was
It's no longer a C.
no longer
Yeah.
a playable.
Right, right.
And so a few weeks went by, and I was a member of the Percussive Arts Society.
Okay, yeah.
They sent out a quarterly magazine,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a little ad like this that said a tuning and building workshop in 1982 in Akron, Ohio,
Wow.
at the university, and it was ran by Cliff Alexis
Okay, yeah.
and Alan O'Connor.
Uh-huh.
And so they said, why don't you go to this and take some of the drums? Maybe they could get fixed up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is all coming around to Ellie.
Okay.
It's a funny story. So
Yeah.
I said, all right, great. I'll take a trip. So I packed up the drums, and away I go to Akron, Ohio.
Right.
I'm in a fancy hotel down by the university, and I'm taking a cab to the back and forth. And so I get out the first day, and I've got 6 boxes of pans, and everyone's looking at me. What are all these? So the whole tuning and building workshop was all these barrels, and everybody's going to make a bass.
Right, right.
And not only make a bass, but a D bass, the same bass.
Right, right.
Which didn't make sense to me. Why don't we all make a different?
You can have a couple sets, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Right.
So that was the thing, and we introduced ourselves. And on one of the breaks, I went over and talked to Cliff Alexis, and he's a big fella just like me.
Yeah, okay.
And I had never met a Trinidadian before,
Oh, wow.
and so I said, "Hey, I brought some steel drums to get tuned," and to me it sounded like he was shouting at me.
Okay.
No, this ain't no tuning thing. We learn how to do this and that, and I was like, oh, okay. And so later I approached him again and said, I'm a teacher. These were sabotaged, and they really need to get fixed up. And he just pointed out that no, that's not what's happening, and we're here to do
Right,
this.
or do something
And
else,
so I
yeah.
said, that's fine. I put my headphones back on and went back to
Yeah.
hammering. And by lunchtime, I peek over, and he had opened all the boxes, and he had the drums out, and he calls me over like this. I'm like, uh-oh. So I go over, and he's like, these are, again with that
Yeah.
that tone, which
Yeah.
sounded like shouting.
Yeah.
These are Ellie, man. Ellie drums. Ellie made these drums. And, why you're bringing them here? And I said, hey, hold on. I said, I don't know what you're shouting about or what you're mad about, but I don't even know this woman, Ellie, or,
You're right.
or who she is, or what you're even talking about. And he said, no. He goes, Ellie's a man.
Right, right.
And he made these. And I said, once again, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So we went on and on, and
Yeah.
I said, well, he goes, yeah, they're damaged. And that next day, I see him over there, and we're building, and he's had gone off and gotten some tracing paper,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah.
And he's laying it onto the pan, and he's tracing the note shapes out, like you talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
And he had 4 or 5 pages of them already done. And then he said to me, I can tune these, but you have to send them to me. So I was like, great.
Yeah.
Can I just leave them with you now? No.
Yeah.
I have to carry them back to Phoenix,
Yeah,
Arizona,
bummer, yeah.
then send them to him, which we did. And he kept them for about, 3 or 4 months. And they came back not really quite right ever. But that's the Ellie part of that story.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. In '82, I met Tom Miller,
Uh-huh.
who's a giant.
And this is
now.
in Akron?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And he had just graduated, I think.
Oh, okay.
From there.
Okay, yeah.
And with Larry Schneider, the teacher,
Okay.
and Ron, what's Ron's last name? Ron Kearns
Ron
and
Kearns.
Shelley Irvin
Yeah.
were still students there, and now they own Pan Yard.
Right.
And so it was just a fun time, and only then, because they had a whole steel band set up too, and for maybe an hour, I think one day, we did a little bit of just playing some of the drums that Tom Miller had organized. And he had showed some drum grooves and stuff. So that's where I first met some of, like Dr. Eugene Novotny now.
Okay.
He was there.
And he's at Humboldt University.
Right.
Yeah.
And in fact, I saw him on my trip to Haystack.
Okay.
He said, come by and could stay by me for a few days,
Yeah.
which I did. It was a wonderful time.
Yeah.
But I found with this art form, it's a community of people that you meet.
Yeah.
I remember when we met,
Yeah.
and that was through Ellie.
Mhm.
So when I went to Haystack, I contacted Tom Miller, who helped me get my pans when I came back to the States.
Okay.
And I didn't want to wait the time out for Alley Pans. It was like a 2-year wait. He
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
Patrick Arnold's living in San Francisco, and I got those pretty fast.
Mhm.
And on the way up, I wanted to get them tuned before the workshop. And he said, well, Patrick Arnold can tune them for you. And I contacted him, and he said, come to MacArthur Park. And he's up there at the side of a hill in the park, him and 3 or 4 other guys. And I kind of found him there, and I parked, and I go up there, and I didn't know which one was Patrick.
Right.
And I asked,
Yeah.
and he was the one he was this far down inside of
Of course.
an oil drum.
Right.
All the way, and it wasn't a clean oil drum.
Oh.
And he had come up and had all this stuff on him. Hi, I'm Patrick, and he was tuning a bass.
Yeah.
And when I showed him the drums, right away, he's like, oh, you can't go up there like this. So he had to fix a couple of notes in the park, and that was new to me. I'm like, huh, I'd never, seen a pan tuned or anything
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
And so we went back up to the festival, and he said, I'd like to do more work on it. And there at the festival, they said, oh, there's a tuner here, Ellie Manette.
Awesome.
And I'm like, oh. And so when I met Ellie, I asked him, could he tune my pan
Yeah.
while I was there? And I had a set of seconds, and my wife there at the time had a tenor pan.
Okay.
And he said, oh, I can't because I'm really busy
Yeah.
with this workshop. He goes, but we started chatting, and where are you from? And I'm from Phoenix. And he goes, well, I'm moving to Phoenix. This is what comes out of Ellie Manette's mouth.
Yeah.
I said, really? and there was another fella there in town that I knew from Phoenix, Tim Ramsey and his wife.
Okay.
They had hired me as a drum set player a few times. And he was going to move to Tim Ramsey's house, and he had built an apartment in the back of his house for Ellie and Kathy
Wow.
George to stay in.
Wow.
And Ellie said, I'm moving there. Okay. I said, great. And I said, when? And he goes, in 2 weeks. So he was actually going to beat me home back to Phoenix. He was
Yeah.
going to be there before me. And we hit it off so well during the workshop because he knew all the fellows that I was just meeting. And a lot of things happened during that week. I found out, there was these nightly jam sessions that I didn't realize that they were going on until like about
Okay.
Thursday
Yeah,
or Wednesday.
right, yeah.
And so I came into one, and it was a bunch of the college guys playing arrangements. And I was like, well, I don't really have arrangements. I just transcribed a bunch of tunes that I liked. And so I wrote up the changes from Bahia Girl on the board that night. And then the next morning when I came back in, everybody was writing those down. They're like, somebody put the chords for Bahia Girl up here, the David Rudder song.
Right.
And I was like, oh, imagine that. So now they found out that I had a book of just lead sheets, I call them,
Yeah.
and head charts that they had arrangements for some of these tunes.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
right.
I got to share with them playing the arrangements and share with them some of my lead sheets. And
Yeah.
so it was a photocopying, sharing experience, and I still am friends with a lot of those people today. It's fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting, like, that for me, because I got involved, I did the Haystack thing in Haystack program with Ellie, and Jeff Norell was there, and Tom Miller was there in '91, I think it was.
Were you doing the building or the?
Well, I was there just to play.
Right.
Yeah. But that was basically like my introduction. So I got started at Cal State Long Beach in like '89, spring of '89, with Michael Carney at Cal State Long Beach. And so he kind of
Michael was there when I went.
right.
Yeah.
And so he kind of got me started with the steel band and the steel drums. But then when I met Ellie and everything else, I was like, whoa, this is like a bigger picture now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but for me, that was like early '90s. So for you, it started in the early '80s.
Yeah.
And I've always been really fascinated with the progression of the history of the steel pan in America, and how it kind of migrated up. I'm assuming from like Florida with the whole with the Navy steel band,
Right.
Right. And we can talk about this one. This is actually an old Invader style drum here that I got from a guy named Walter. And his dad was part of the Postal Service or something like that for the military.
Okay.
And so he wasn't actually in the band, but his dad would coordinate all of the events for the steel band.
Right.
So we had all this coordination kind of stuff going on. And
So he must have been stationed in Trinidad?
yeah, I believe so. I think so. So anyway, so that's how he got this drum. And he told me, Walter told me that he believes that Ellie tuned that. So
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, this is classic piece of
Did
history.
you ever see that video, or maybe Ray Funk sent it to you, 18 on Steel?
If I did, I don't recall it right now.
It's a black and white video from
Okay.
the 50s.
Okay.
And it's three bands, Shell Invaders, the United States Navy Band, and I can't remember the name of the third band. And they're all playing in Chaguaramas, which is where the base is. And there's a huge, it appears to be a tent, and there must be maybe 1,000 people in the audience. And you can imagine the wardrobe and the style, hairstyles back then. And it's a black and white video, and the audience is sitting very prim and proper, and these bands are on stage. And Ellie's in the band.
Yeah.
And he's actually playing a tenor pan.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly like this.
Right.
And Ellie said, when they were doing that, he is not a tenor player. He was a guitarist player.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they went off to film the thing, and so he had to step up and play the tenor parts.
Yeah.
But the Navy band is there, and they sound fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's a really great video. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube, but
Yeah.
it might
Maybe out
be
there somewhere. Yeah.
I'll make sure to share that with you.
Yeah,
You're
but
gonna-
I just find it fascinating. So it kind of started with the Navy Steel Band, kind of getting into the Americana.
Coming up
aspect.
here?
Yeah, coming up here, I'm assuming.
Well, Pete Seeger,
And then, okay, yeah, that's right, Pete Seeger.
he
was
did a
in the Steel
video
Band
too.
Yeah.
And he's playing the same model.
Yeah.
And he was talking to Wong.
Oh, yeah. Earl?
Kim Loy Wong.
Kim Loy Wong? Yeah.
And he bought some pants from him. And the video, when it starts off, it's like, hi, I'm Pete Seeger, and I'm here in Trinidad, and this is called a steel drum, and it's made from this. And he plays Tico Tico on it. So I don't know how long it took him to play that, but he was an accomplished musician in his own right. But to go down there and then bring that back here to the States in that video form, and even some Trinidadians he might have helped come to the States too.
Yeah.
And then Ellie was contacted. There was a Navy, I'm not sure what, the admiral that really fell in love with the sound. And he apparently...
Oh, right, exactly.
He
Somebody had to, right?
Yeah, he apparently told some ensign or something.
Right.
Gotta get us one of those.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so the ensign,
Sure.
following orders,
Yeah.
he went out, and his mission was to seek out and find the best steel drum builder and pan person on the island, and help them start a Navy band.
Yeah.
Which Ellie did.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
And it's, I'm sure that's prior to this, prior to this concert, because they're all Ellie made drums.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of things that people say, this is new. Like I play a lot with 4 sticks, and everybody's, is that a new thing? I'm like, well, I don't really know.
Right.
But on this video, the guitar players are playing with 4 sticks.
There you go.
Some of them.
Yeah.
And I noticed even the pan top that we play on the part had the big bung hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And the small release hole here. and it was right on the middle of a note.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It
crazy.
still worked, yeah.
And when I hear the sound of that video, I remarked on it and to a lot of people. I said, listen to that, especially the Invaders band and the Navy band, because those are all alley pans and
Yeah.
drums.
Yeah.
The sound hasn't changed that much. What I noticed is the front line, and by that I mean the tenors
Melody, yeah.
and the double seconds and the double tenors. Those pans, I don't even think they had double tenors then, but
Right.
the double seconds and the tenor pan have changed because now they're tuned with the rich harmonics
Right,
and
yeah.
the double octaves. And
Yeah.
but the low end, boom, 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 is still pretty much that same sound,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
It-
Absolutely.
And it's a remarkable video, and it's all on these drums here.
Right. Yeah. And they have that totally authentic, earthy sound, more a little bit woody, almost like a marimba.
Right,
but
real
metal.
dry, and they
Yeah.
Trinidad call it a corky,
Oh, okay.
corky
okay.
sound.
A corky sound. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Real short and
Yeah.
detached.
So my history is interesting. Like I said, I kind of started in the early '90s. You basically said like early '80s when you got started.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still the '70s are still kind of a mystery zone for me. Like I don't know who were the main players in the '70s that were.
Well, players of pan.
Well, like you said, well, there's Andy Narell and his brother Jeff, right?
Well,
They were
Andy
probably
had
he
some,
was in
I think
Trinidad,
Andy
New York.
had an album out maybe in the 70s.
Yeah,
His first album
yeah, but it wasn't really in the
But Robert
universities,
Greenwich
right? It wasn't
was
really in the
playing a lot
schools.
with Taj Mahal.
Okay, yeah,
And maybe in the Just the Two of Us wasn't far behind that.
right.
In the 80s, I
Yeah.
imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of those players were up here in the States, but not really a lot. Pan seemed to just come out of nowhere.
That's what I'm kind of getting at. It's like in the '70s, to me, it was like this little mystery time,
Mm-hmm.
and then out of the blue, it got into some universities, and that's when it started to really attract attention of other players and
Right.
notable people that are still with it today. So I'm assuming that was in the early '80s when they got into the universities.
It seemed like.
Like Cliff Alexis was with what university?
He was,
affiliated with.
Well, he was. I don't think he was affiliated with a university
Okay.
so much when I first met him.
Yeah.
Alan O'Connor had a steel drum band, and Cliff made those pans.
Okay.
But he lived in St. Paul,
Oh,
the
okay.
Twin Cities areas. And then NIU is the school I'm talking about.
Right.
Now
right.
they have, of course, blossomed
Right.
into the pan mecca here in the States, maybe.
Yeah.
But here when I went to university, and I graduated at ASU in '83, there was no steel band.
No. Yeah.
And like I said, I started teaching in '82, and 84 is when I moved out and went on the road and tours. But there was still no bands at any of the universities. Now, at U of A, Janine Remy
Mm-hmm.
was a student there,
Mm-hmm.
and she may have been doing her grad work there. I can't recall. I met her several times, just small pan world, so we had heard or known of each other. And
Yeah.
I went down to U of A because I wanted to see this big steel band concert, and she must have maybe been doing graduate work there. And in those days, you could almost get your hand in and get a job.
Oh,
if,
right,
if you
right,
had
yeah.
pans.
Yeah, okay,
It was
yeah.
an added bonus,
Right.
especially to
Something different.
in addition
Yeah,
to your
yeah.
talent pool.
Right.
It was an added bonus. Well, plus I have 20 sets of steel pans. and
Yeah, right.
We could use those, and that was the case down there, and it was really unique and fun. Well, she must have done her undergrad somewhere and got a lot of her pans from Cliff Alexis.
Right.
So Alan O'Connor came out with Cliff Alexis on one of her concerts. I think I went to two of them down there in Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my first big steel band kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it was kind of nice and unique
Yeah.
and, very fun.
Yeah.
And so I never really had an opportunity to do that. But if you don't know Janine's history now, she's teaching at the UE, which is
Right.
a university in the West Indies.
Yeah.
in Trinidad.
Right.
And so she's
Full bore.
one of those people who have just stuck it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seems to me most everybody who gets into pan,
Yeah, it kind of remains.
they're in for the long haul.
Yeah.
It's much like your ukuleles. Not only do they have one, but they have one of each,
Right.
or two or three.
Exactly. It becomes a habit
of each voice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
And like I guess in Trinidad they call that the pan jumby. You got the jumby.
That's right. Yeah.
The jumby for pan. It's like it gets inside your blood and your soul, and you just can't imagine life without it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened to me in the '90s.
Yeah.
So one of my fun little stories I like to tell with JT is I was working with a steel band at North High School in Torrance, California, and so we were getting that band going. Jim Webb was the director at the time, and I was kind of like the coach, after-school coach, like a drumline guy, but not drumline. He was with the steel band, and so we got that program going really strong. And I think it was '98 when we came out to Phoenix, because I think
Yeah, but you and Chris came out before that.
Oh, before, that's right.
Well before that.
That's right. There was a couple of years before that when Chris and I
that's
were...
actually even after Ellie had moved away.
Right.
And
So Melly had moved away, and I think he came back to stay with you for a period of
Yeah,
time.
but so back to the Ellie story. When I'm in Haystack,
Okay.
and he said, I don't have time to tune your pants, but I'm moving to Phoenix in 2 weeks. I was like, fantastic.
Right.
So when he came out there, I contacted him, and he's like, I could use a helper. So I was an apprentice with Ellie.
Oh, cool.
And I guess he was there for a handful of years.
Yeah.
I can't really remember. Maybe about 3.5, 4 years. So I was out there nearly every day, all day, helping Ellie Manette and Kathy, George, and doing sinking and painting and all kinds of stuff with pan. And even then, ASU had us come out and do a couple of clinics because they still didn't have a pan band.
Right.
But they had the interest because a lot, like you said, a lot of universities started having steel pans.
Yeah.
And even a few high schools in the U.S. And there might have been some elementary school infiltration too. But it seemed like we did one workshop over there, then we did another one. And so Ellie was a little excited, thinking, hey, the ASU's going to buy a whole set of pans, JT, And that's what made Ellie the most excited.
Yeah.
It was just making pans for people and having them play them,
Sure.
especially a big university.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened was, I guess there was somebody knew somebody else, and they ended up buying some pans that NIU actually had that they weren't using anymore because their pans had been replaced over the years. And so they ended up getting an entire set of pans at a really ridiculous price.
Yeah.
And then they brought them all out for Ellie and us to tune them out there.
Yeah.
And so that's how ASU got started.
Okay.
And I can't remember, but that was in not very early.
Right,
a lot
right,
of they were kind of playing catch up.
Right, okay,
with their
yeah,
steel drum
yeah.
band. By then, several high schools had bands, and now it seems, well, all three universities, the major ones in Arizona, have steel pan orchestras.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that didn't exist.
Yeah.
There must be 40 high schools.
Yeah. Phoenix is like.
And elementary schools, 40 more of those, and then a host of Trini bands and professional players.
Yeah.
It's really popular,
Yeah.
and it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's to the point now where I'll meet people when I'm going around and doing a guest artist with a college or a high school.
Yeah.
And especially at the college, or even people out here in jobbing, we'll just be chatting. And a lot of people I talk to that are pan players, I'm like, oh, you play pan? Yeah, I'm a guitar player. Or they're like, yeah, I play trombone or piano.
Yeah.
And I picked this up.
Yeah.
But now I talk to people that are in their 30s. Oh, you're a pan player? And they're like, yeah, it was my first instrument.
Right, yeah.
It started in fourth
middle
grade.
school or whatever it was, yeah.
And then
yeah.
I went to a middle school and a high school that had it, and then the university had it.
Yeah.
And when I was at ASU, a lot of the young students there in the band at the ASU had already played for 4 years in high school.
Yeah.
They could play whatever I threw at them.
One thing I remember too when I first was learning steel band music was because I was a drummer, so I was drumming on drum set and that sort of thing through my whole life since I was like 11. And the whole calypso beat, soca beat,
Right.
was so unfamiliar. Right, I don't think I'd ever really heard that before. So they had to be taught this rhythm, and it was like this new foreign rhythm from the islands.
Even today, a lot of these strum rhythms and rhythms, I tell people they get discouraged because, I can't play this drum, and first thing is, I hate that strum. And I'm like, well, that's one of the easiest ones. You just put it on automatic pilot, and you're just going like this.
Yeah.
You know, and happy as a clam.
Yeah.
And I said, and pretty soon that actually even sounds like the downbeat to you. But,
Right, yeah.
But you're around a whole rack full of people doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't not do it.
Right.
It just comes. But I tell them when they're struggling at first, I'm like, we didn't grow up listening to this music.
No, right, I know.
It's foreign to us. Those rhythms,
all that stuff was
and the
foreign.
style,
Right.
and all of that.
Yeah. And I thought that was so exciting. That for me, that's what was really something attractive about it, was just the unique rhythms that I hadn't heard before.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's kind of interesting now. I listen to the radio, and I hear a lot of those rhythms on the radio, pop music.
Especially in the Latino channels, there was
Latino channels, but
there
even
was
just
some
in,
drum loops that were mislabeled.
Oh,
Soca grooves were mislabeled with a Latina thing, and then you hear this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
On the radio, and they're loops.
Yeah.
But those rhythms I think are shared now with
shared all
every
over
country.
the place. Yeah. But I just, for me, it's interesting seeing within my own 25-year history with this that it's gone from kind of this obscure rhythm that was really just a Caribbean island kind of thing,
Right.
to it's worldwide now. Mm-hmm. And I really kind of do believe that it had a lot to do with the steel band being pushed into other countries, not only America, but Europe and Japan and all sorts of places. And everybody's familiar with those rhythms now, and then they incorporate those. Like you said, you've got these students or people that you see around town now that are like 35, but when they were 12, they were learning these.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they not only learned it, but they probably incorporated it in their own music.
And the Trinis, there's probably more Trinis in New York than there are in Trinidad.
Oh, wow.
Same for England.
Yeah.
Probably more Trinis in England than there are in Trinidad.
Right.
And they're able to,
migration,
especially England, that's the same passport. Same thing. They just go there, and
that culture just kind of
they don't need
spreads. Yeah.
So they don't have any visa troubles, and a lot of the artists lived there in the 50s, and Kitchener was there for a long time.
Oh yeah, Kitchener. I love
a lot
Kitchener.
of those Calypsonians.
Yeah, if you ever want to learn about Calypso, you gotta listen to Kitchener.
Yes.
It all starts from him, man. That guy's great. I mean, not all starts, but he's like one of the foremost Calypsonians that you can hear his tunes being played by steel bands.
I think he was kind of known as the writer for Pan.
Yeah.
DeFausto kind of took that on himself too afterwards.
Yeah.
But back to Ali, when I worked for him, it was about for maybe 3.5 years. But we had such a rich relationship. He would, even after he left, he'd accepted a residency, artist in residence, to go back to Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah.
And
that must have been mid-90s, right?
Yeah, so he went back and took this residency, not knowing how long it was going to be or what was going to happen, but they had...
Oh, that was, what's his name? Was it Morgantown? You mentioned him earlier.
Tim Peterman.
Right,
and they had the University Tuning Project that they were going to do.
That's right.
Part of the students could come and work with Ellie and learn the art form.
Alan Coyle was there.
A lot of them were there. Darren Dyke,
Emily,
Billy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just a lot of them came in and took that program on. Chandler and it, for some reason or another, it moved away from the university, and then Ellie remained there, him and Kathy, and had just a business now. And so because of that relationship, they'd say, "Oh, JT, we need to tune, some band in Las Vegas. We need to tune a band in El Paso, and a lot of the couple of the bands in Phoenix, and this and the other. So we're going to come out by you." That's how Ellie would say, "We're coming out by you." He would not fly. That's not
road traveling,
not his thing. So they would load up this big, huge travel van, and away they went. So they would drive and come. So they would stay at my place for like maybe 2 months at a time.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to leave for a week or two. We're going to go up to Brigham Young and tune them. We're going to go tune another band here, another city, and then come back, and then they stay here and tune and do their thing and build. And
Yeah.
so it was really fun, and that's when the phone call came from you and Chris Wavich.
Yeah. All right. Yep.
Tell that
We
story.
heard that Ellie was in town, staying with you,
Right.
and we had just been working on learning how to make steel drums, just in general, over at Cal State Long Beach. Michael Carney was kind enough to let us use some of the practice rooms just to bash
Just
on
to
drums in
wail
there.
away.
Yeah. So we had made some basses, so, somewhat successful basses, somewhat successful triple guitars, somewhat successful doubles.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think either one of us had gotten successful tenor pan at that point. The tenor pan was like the holy grail. Like one of these days, if I can ever make a tenor pan, it'll be awesome. But
Right.
so I think we brought out like a bass, a couple cellos, and a couple doubles or something like that. It was like a moderate little pickup truck load. Of,
But you guys had
pans.
called me
Yeah.
on the phone and
Yeah.
said, we heard Ellie's there, and if you guys don't know the story, Ellie was with this wonderful woman, Kathy George,
Mhm.
and she was very protective of Ellie. And Ellie is, he's a little, I don't want to say quirky, but he's from the islands and he's got his own persona, and so she would just kind of be a barrier sometimes and a buffer with
Yeah.
certain people, because people could really want to clamp onto Ellie and never let go.
Yeah.
And he had work to do and an
Yeah.
agenda of his own. So
Yeah.
if she would have gotten the phone call, she probably would have said, well, maybe
Yeah, right.
another time, because even to get tuned, it was, well, you can drop your pants off and Ellie will look at them, and then I'll call you back and let you know what's up. And so I'm like, what? You're who? Well, yeah, come on out, man. And so these guys drove out with these pans, and I didn't even mention it to Kathy or Ellie, I don't think,
We just showed up.
until the doorbell rang.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, these are some guys. They called and came from California. They wanted
Yeah.
to show you their work.
Yeah.
Ellie's like, what? Huh? And as soon as he hears pan,
Yeah.
he's ready.
Yeah.
And so Kathy was off her game. She didn't know what to do, but it was underway already.
Yeah.
And I still remember to this day, we laying them out in my living room
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
and getting them all out. And
Yeah, it was
and
fun.
you guys showed them your stuff.
Yeah, it was amazing because, like you said, we were somewhat, sort of, kind of unannounced. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And I was so green at the time. I didn't know up or down. I didn't know who Ellie was yet.
Right.
That was my first time meeting him. And I didn't know the whole Trinidadian culture, this, that, yet, or anything. And we were just really interested in making these drums. So, we were getting close with the tuning. And so, but there was like this little mystery element that we weren't quite getting. So it was super awesome because at that point, Ellie basically put the drums in front of him, and he said, "Oh, just do this,
Little
tap
lesson.
here, tap there, da da da." And it was like the lights went on at that point, and that was one of the big, crucial moments in my little tuning history that really made it work for me.
Did you-
And I'm
oh,
not
was
sure
that-
about Chris. I think it was really.
Was it because you were seeing it at the same time and hearing his explanation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, before that, I'd been able to see Patrick Arnold tune some steel drums at Cal State Long Beach, but it was never like a formal teaching moment. It was just kind of casually watching from the sidelines,
Right.
And so that might have been my first. Well, and I'd met Ellie at the Haystack. So sorry, that wasn't the first time I met him. I met him at Haystack. So I'm not sure if he remembered me from that or not. Maybe not, because I wasn't really formally involved with the making project.
yeah.
But anyway, so it was just really great to get that mentorship, like right there on the spot with the drums that we had built, not on somebody else's drum that was foreign.
Right.
I don't know what
Sure.
they've done up to that point. So for us, I think it was really a great moment because we were able to see what Ellie could do with our drums and the potential that was already there. You just needed to kind of like tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and also that was one of the moments where he was using the torch, like a propane torch, to kind of heat up certain elements of the
Yeah. Versus
the
the
nose.
whole note, just a certain.
a little spot to kind
pinpointed
of
area.
like, make it a little bit brighter here or there. And so stuff like that was really intriguing to me as well.
I found it fascinating, and being so lucky to stand over his shoulder and listen to him and watch him
Yeah.
tune. He'd have a note, or a pan there, and he'd knock on it, and he'd say, well, JT, what do you think, fella? And I said, well, it sounds sharp like hell, So he'd turn it over. He goes, all right, watch. I'm going to take this down from the hit, right? 2 hits, pop, pop. Watch the strobe spin backwards, and you could hear it clearly come down. He'd flip it over, and he'd say, all right, I'm going to bring it back up, and pop, pop, 2 hits, and the strobe would just stop right there. And he goes, yeah, all right, we got the fundamental. He goes, now let's see what else we got. What about the octave? And he'd come to the inside note and do the same thing, and he'd say, check the octave here. Should be here and here. And he'd say, this one, it's a little high. He'd spin it over and just use the pinpoint little edge of his hammer, and he'd say, he'd do like this. JT, I'm just going to hit it here and just open that up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Pop, pop, 2 hits, and you could hear it and see it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And then bang, he'd hit that note and play it. And then you try to do it for 2 weeks, and couldn't get that yourself.
Oh, funny. Oh, right.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
And I tried, but by the time he was ready to leave, my point with Ellie as an apprentice was for the most sinking and shaping stuff. And by the time I was ever really ready to tune,
Yeah.
he would let me take stuff after burning and knock it down a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
and clean it off, that kind of thing, but not really a whole lot of that because he just didn't have the time.
Yeah.
And the next thing I knew, he's moving away. And so on my own, that tuning was always a mystery, and I could make a pan kind of that looked okay,
Yeah.
and even sent a couple to Patrick Arnold in today, but I could never get the note to sound and open up
Yeah, that bright.
like
Full sound,
like a
yeah.
pan. It always
Yeah.
sounded like a coffee cup. I
Uh-huh.
was like, gosh. And only did I ever be able to do it when I kind of came by your house.
Oh, right,
And I
right,
had
yeah.
already been making pan with you and Chris
Yeah.
on bases.
Yeah, right.
I made a bunch of set of bases, but I wasn't responsible for tuning them. I'd make them. Remember, you guys would
Yeah.
tune them up, and I'd take them away and paint them, and
Yeah.
they would be for orders.
Yeah.
But I remember I said, Dave, I want to come over and make some bases that maybe we did start to tune, but I remember it was single pan.
Yeah, we did.
I wanted
like
to make a single guitar and a
guitar.
single
Yeah,
second.
yeah. I remember the guitars. Yeah.
And a single second, and so we make them, and you had air hammers then, and I had
Yeah,
never
right.
used air hammers before, but I was using this, I would say, wow, that's really nice.
Yeah.
You know, it is really smooth, and you're like, okay, yeah. Now take it up, raise them up from the bottom, and really high, and so I would do that, and they would look gross. And then because you were busy, I think with the kids or something,
yeah.
paperwork, and
Yeah.
and so you'd come in and check and leave me alone, come back, and you'd say, now take it down, and I already knew all that process, but then I'd do that a couple times, and I'm like, well, I can't do it, and so you said one thing to me, and it was like this big light bulb. You said, knock it down, and the note will come down, boom, 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 until you start to hear it raise again. And you said, while you're knocking it down, kind of shape it too at the same time.
Yeah.
And as soon as you hear the note start to go up, stop. I was like, okay, whatever that meant.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
by this time I'm tired and sweaty, and I'm okay. And sure enough, that's all I did, and I could hear it. I was shaping it, and especially when I had this hammer on it. I'm shaping it, and I'd hear it start to raise in pitch. I'd leave it alone. You go all the way around,
Yeah.
and then you'd say, then knock them back up again, and keep knocking them down until the pitch doesn't go up. And I think I had done that 3 or 4 times, and this was on the guitar, and all of a sudden, one of the notes just started to boing, boing, and I grabbed a stick, boing. I'm like, oh my God!
Yeah. I'm there.
And I think you had just opened the door. I said, Dave, listen to this. And you're like, yeah, do that to all of them.
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, no. I've never been able to get it to open up and sound like a real pan note.
Yeah.
And you said, oh, you just didn't do it enough times.
Yeah.
Because that's
Right.
what we think as novices. Oh, we're just up and down.
A couple times, and yeah.
That should sound like a pan.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
And
that is actually the most difficult thing to teach is that initial shaping of the note.
Yeah.
Because it's a process. You can't just say do this one thing and you're done. It's like do this one thing and 10 other things, and then do them in a maybe
At the
similar
same
order.
time,
At the
and
same
get
time,
all
you're
this
thinking- yeah.
going.
And so it's a really difficult thing to teach. So that's awesome that worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still use those pans at my school.
Oh, good.
With the jumbies.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
It's good to know that. So we were just talking about me showing up to see Ellie at JT's house, and here's a picture of me hanging out there with Ellie. I think that was like 93, somewhere in there. Maybe 92,
Yep.
92, 93.
That's when you and Chris came out.
Yeah. And so Chris was there too, but it's just me. Me and Ellie. It was awesome. Awesome moment.
And then, when was it? A couple of years later that you called?
Oh
Again,
yeah. So
again?
in '98, so it must have been, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years later.
Right.
I was working with that steel band in North High School in Torrance, and it was a nice sized
Ellie was
band.
back again.
Ellie was back again, and I think was it Ellie was back, and I think Bugsy Sharp was playing at ASU.
Perhaps,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that's what it was. So we went to do both, like to try to get everybody, like the whole learning experience for the kids, like Ellie Manette, Bugsy Sharp, JT Taylor.
I remember some of your kids when you guys arrived because we were having a little band practice.
Okay.
And then it might have even been Brian or one of them that came in. They're like, oh, yeah, I remember him running over
Yeah,
to tell his friend, they're playing Tobago Jam.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. We've heard about this song, and they're actually playing it. Yeah, so I think Bugsy Sharp was playing at ASU later that week or on that weekend or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then I called up JT, and I was like, hey, JT, can I bring my band by to say hello to Ellie or something like that? And so this is a picture of the North High Steel Band there. North High School number 10 Tin Can Band.
Not to say how high, Dave said, can we come and play? Can my kids come
Yeah.
and play
Say
for
hi and
Ellie?
play,
I was like,
yeah.
well, yeah, where are you? And you're like, well, we're over here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And next thing, about an hour later, a big rider,
Big truck, yeah.
big truck pulls up, and these kids pull the ramp down and like they start unloading stuff, and they set up in my front yard, and it was a huge steel orchestra.
Yeah, there was probably like 30 kids in
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and the kids, it was mostly the kids wanted to meet Ellie and like basically show what they've done and show
Right.
the songs and playing on steel drums for Ellie Manette. You know,
He really liked it. He
Father
remarked
steel drum.
over and over again how the kids had nice touch.
Oh yeah,
And they didn't beat the pan.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. But that was a really awesome moment in time.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding.
Thank you for that. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
that.
Thank you for being Dave.
Absolutely. Do what I can. But the cool thing is, you know, it's just made out of the top lid
Of one of
of
your.
a 35-gallon barrel.
Oh, I thought it was one of your.
No, you
Forms
just like
that
it's
you
a
ordered.
top, it's a lid of a 35-gallon barrel. So, and I like it because look how easily they stack.
No kidding.
You can just nest them up. You can have a whole band like in a little suitcase kind of thing.
Well, I have a whole jumbie. This is the same layout.
Yeah, same layout as the jumbie. That's what the panyard makes.
Now it doesn't. Dave, you're always reinventing yourself.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I like those a lot. They're
These
pretty
are
cool.
really nice.
I just really like how compact they are because you really could as a teacher. I mean, you wouldn't want to knock them against each other when you're putting them away.
We'll have to talk about the
Yeah.
price on those.
Oh man, those things are
Off camera and stuff.
yeah, off camera.
And these, I would love to come over and teach a jumbie class. Is that what you have?
Oh, yeah,
Mostly
yeah,
your
we've gotta do
classes
that.
are jumbies?
Yeah. Well, basically we use these.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would love to come over and do that.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
And
I'd love to have
because
you.
I teach, I have about 18 kids, and I supplement my jumbie band, right, with that single guitar, because I don't know if you recall, it's low D,
Yeah, right. Okay.
E, F sharp, G, A,
It works.
B, C,
Yeah.
C sharp, D, E.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like in the key of
the key of G,
D,
yeah.
and it works. Then the single second, as you know, is chromatic. Not an exact
Right.
order.
Right.
Like you have G, but you don't have an A flat,
Yeah.
you get that.
You get a
on the
high A flat.
side.
Yeah, right.
Other than that, after that, it's straight up, so I can really accommodate nearly any chord I want to.
Right.
You know, I might maybe leave a bass note
Change
out,
your
or I
voicing
might
or whatever,
have,
yeah.
You know, a fifth in the bass, or you know, something weird, or something that you wouldn't typically get a 1 and a 5 in the bass.
Right.
If I had a B7, I can do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it really makes the band come alive. I just did St. Thomas with the jazz changes,
Nice.
unaltered,
Awesome.
just straight
yeah.
as they are.
Killer. Wow.
And yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I have videos of all that, but I'd love to come do a class for you.
Sounds like a plan. Let's
And
do it.
I could bring the single, second, and guitar. Sounds pretty
Yeah.
good.
That's just a rental.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And here you got the old Invader style, the classic.
Yeah. Still got some life in it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed that it's, you know, it's
That's the
still.
stand he gave you?
Yeah, this is the original stand. There it is.
I can't remember. Something like E,
Yeah, that's
E flat.
an E. Yeah,
E
E.
flat.
This is D. E flat's over here. C sharp.
Got some life in it.
Yeah.
I would leave all this intact just like it is.
You mean like the rust stuff?
Yeah.
I know. I don't. Just let it go.
Archie. Who wrote that on there?
I don't know. Maybe that was the guy's name who played it. I don't know.
I know a guy named Archie.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, and his brother goes by Juggy.
Juggy. Archie and Juggy. Cool.
Yeah, because they liked that that comic when they were
Okay,
kids.
yeah.
Look at that. But you could get in here, tune this up pretty easy.
Yeah, there's.
You don't want to put too much on.
No, I know.
You don't want any of them to light up.
Yeah. I was. There are a couple here that light up. Some of them.
Yeah,
somewhere.
almost.
One of these. Like that one.
Oh,
Right
that one.
here. Yeah, it was lighting up a little bit.
This one's got some harmonic
Yeah.
in it. Oh, that one
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
You can knock all that off. Funny.
It's a low B. That's a low B.
The C is.
I think it's here. Yeah. Oh, did you say you had a story about Eliminate with the Invader pan?
Oh, just how he had came about putting all the
Oh,
notes in.
Give it to us, man.
Oh,
Give us that story.
just what he told me, but I think
Okay.
everybody else knows it already.
Oh, go for it.
He's talking about that Barracuda.
Oh, I've got you on.
Ellie had made this little small drum, right? Just had a handful of notes, and every year they have a competition.
And this is back when? The 40s?
I think this is 40s.
Okay.
Because I think he went to the full size barrel in 50.
Okay.
So this might have been 48, 49, maybe even 50.
Yeah.
But the fellas had taken his drum from him.
Oh, right.
because
I remember
the
hearing this
music
story.
competition was
Yeah.
coming up, and he's always a shoe-in to win.
Yeah.
And so they took his drum and they hung it up from a tree and said, come get your drum. And he knew better than to do that. So he said he looked all over. He couldn't find any little biscuit tins to make a pan with.
Okay.
So he found an oil drum, right? And he said he didn't want anybody to really know what he's going to be doing because it
Yeah.
might not work.
Yeah.
So he put it in a bag And he goes, JT, I carried it up into the bush, right? And I started working on this pan. And he goes, right away, not only is the steel stronger, right?
Yeah.
He goes, but I had all my notes. And he goes, I had all this room left.
Yeah.
And he goes, so I didn't know what to do. I'm like, well, let me put an XB in there.
Yeah.
Let me put another this, because he goes, I had ears and
Yeah.
stuff. And he goes, and then it went to that, and I started playing more tunes on that. And then the more tunes I played and heard in my head, I'd hunt down the note, and I don't have that note. He goes, we didn't know nothing about chromatic or nothing. He goes, I just would be singing a song, and I'm like, I don't have that note.
Yeah.
All right, all you YouTubers out there, I just want to say thank you to JT Taylor for coming out today and giving us a little history lesson on steel band and how it's developed in America and his own personal story. I think it's totally awesome the way it's been developing, and it's really been fun working with you over the years.
It sure
and,
has.
Showing up at each other's houses and hanging out.
It's a blast.
Yeah, total blast. So, all right, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.